Good afternoon. The pleasure coming your homes this afternoon is the weekend edition of the news. My name is Mavis Ofe-Champon. Do join us in the next hour for some story updates from across the country and beyond our shores. So we start off from the Ayawaso East issues, where Ghana's High Commissioner to Nigeria, Mr. Baba Jamal, yesterday won the NDC's Ayawaso East parliamentary primaries amid some allegations of vote buying and vote selling. So a three-member committee chaired by Mr. Kofi Totobikwache has been constituted to investigate allegations of the inducement and vote buying during the primaries. So Majority Leader Mahama Ayariga and lawyer Emefa Fuga are serving as members. The committee's mandate also includes recommending sustainable measures and reforms aimed at ending inducement and vote buying in the party's internal electoral process.
Issued and signed by General Secretary Fifi Kwete on February 7, the NDC said the committee follows its earlier announcement to probe reports of widespread inducement and vote buying during Saturday's internal election. According to the party, the committee is expected to submit its report on Tuesday, February 10, 2026. The NDC said the moves forms part of its commitment to internal democracy, transparency, and ethical political conduct. The party assured members, stakeholders, and the general public that it remains committed to upholding integrity in its internal elections and urged supporters to remain calm as the committee carries out its work. The decision by the NDC to investigate alleged inducement and vote buying at the Ayawaso East parliamentary primaries follows widespread controversy surrounding the conduct of the election. Concerns intensified after reports emerged that one of the candidates, Mr. Muhammad Baba Jabal Ahmed, allegedly distributed items including 32-inch television sets and boiled eggs to delegates during the voting process. These actions, according to the party insiders and delegates, were widely perceived as inducement and believed to have influenced the voting pattern at the primaries resulting to his victory. Images and accounts of the alleged distribution circulated widely, sparking public debate and internal dissatisfaction within the party, with many members calling for swift action to protect the integrity of the NDC's internal democratic processes.
Meanwhile, President John Mahama has directed the immediate recall of Mr. Muhammad Baba Jamal Ahmed from his position as Ghana's High Commissioner to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, following allegations of the inducement linked to the Ayawaso East primaries. This was contained in a statement issued and signed by the spokesperson of the President and Minister of Government Communications, Mr. Felix Kwache Fosu, on Saturday, January 7, 2026. In his directive to the Minister for Foreign Affairs, recalling Mr. Baba Jamal as High Commissioner, the President noted that while the allegations of vote buying were made against multiple candidates who contested the primaries, Baba Jamal was the only serving public officer among them. Without prejudice to the ongoing internal party processes, the statement says, the President, strictly in view of the standards of conduct expected of public officers, he considers it necessary to act decisively to preserve the integrity of public office and to avoid any perception of impropriety or conflict with the government's code of conduct for political appointees. The recall takes effect immediately, and the Minister for Foreign Affairs has been directed to take the necessary administrative and diplomatic steps to give effect to this directive. So shortly we'll be having a government spokesperson, a government analyst and a lawyer, Mr. Frimpong, lawyer Frimpong, to share some impressions about this whole issue. So we have him online. Lawyer Frimpong, good afternoon and thanks for joining us. before we have him, the NDC has defended the distribution. That is, Baba Jamal himself, he has defended the distribution of the television sets to delegates during the party's parliamentary primaries, insisting the gesture was not intended to influence voting decisions. It is alleged that his campaign team distributed 32-inch television sets to delegates who participated in the Ayawaso East constituency primary. So reports also indicates that other aspirants offered items including motorbikes, sanitary pads, clothes, rice, kivo gari, boiled eggs with pepper and cash, amounting to 10,000 Ghana cedis. I think Lawyer is online. Lawyer Frimpong, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. Good afternoon. If you can hear me, we just want to have your initial comments on all of these vote buying issues, allegations as far as our elections are concerned, by-elections, NDC, MPP primaries. What will be your initial comments?
Well, my comment is that when it comes to vote buying, it is like the famous economics term, demand and supply. In this case, the demand is made by the voter suffering abject poverty. The voter who believes that after casting the vote for you, it will take another 4 years before he sees you again. So that becomes his or her cocoa season. So he makes the demand. And then the supply comes from the politician, the resourceful politician. And it is based on his willingness that the interplay can go on. If, for example, he makes the demand, and if we have 5 contestants, nobody is ready to accept, then in the end, there is no demand and supply. So I believe that you do not have to blame only the politicians. The voters are to be blamed. And it is caused by poverty. It is caused by poor political education. And it is something that affects the entire political system because judging from the last MPP primaries, you know that some report has been made to the OSP, and we all know that at least there is one candidate among the aspirants who, but for heavy resources, wouldn't have made the percentage that he made. So it is a canker that must be removed in our society, and the president's action in recalling the High Commissioner Baba Jamal is to be commended. The immediate response of the OSP must also be commended. But above all else, I believe that the panacea is that we Ghanaians have actually made the political offices so lucrative, especially being part of the legislature, because if you are part of the legislature, it becomes easier for you to obtain bigger executive appointment by the president. And that is why I believe there must be a constitutional reform. Otherwise, how on earth would a high commissioner itch to become a member of parliament? The whole nation should sit up and do a reform with reference to the separation of powers between the legislature and then the executive.
Nashi, since he has been recalled by the president has recalled him, how do you see this move, and do you anticipate any disciplinary action once the investigations are conducted, or you think that it will be the everyday issue of let it pass?
I don't think it will be an everyday issue of let it pass, because the president cannot, out of the blue, recall his high commissioner. He saw the evidence. We have all seen the evidence on social media, and the voters unashamedly saying that everybody pays money. Some gave the gari, some gave bags of rice, some gave 10,000 Ghana cedis, and then Baba Jamal also gave television sets. So, and it is endemic. We all know it. Look, do you know the Convention People's Party? And when you are saying the truth, you don't have to look left or right. The Convention People's Party voted for somebody who is accidented and sitting in a wheelchair because he had plenty money, more than Kwame Nkrumah's own daughter. The same person contested again. He beat one of the well-known lawyers in Ghana, Bracha Koche, all because of resources. And at that time, those who voted for him knew that the person was a disabled person who would not be able to campaign. But they didn't give a bother, all because of money. So it is something that is endemic and it is destroying our society. And I believe that the OSP must be given a push. The police must come in. The president must not relent, because this is clear evidence being supplied by those who voted. If other people were not caught, because maybe they are not in public places, in your case, you have been caught, and two, you have admitted that you always give gifts to people, including what happened Saturday. He must not be sent back to Nigeria. It must be a warning to everybody, not only in NDC, CPP, PNC, NPP, everyone. Thank you.
Yes, other observations are calling for the annulment of this whole process. Do you agree to it? And already the OSP has issued a statement this morning to do a further investigation into it. Of course, one of the officials was also brutalized whatsoever. They're calling for annulment of this whole process. Do you agree to that?
I agree that it should be annulled, because once it is tainted with criminality, whoever eventually becomes the winner, assuming Baba Jamal, having won, also wins and goes to sit in parliament representing the people of Ayawaso East, it will be like a criminal sitting there. So I want the whole thing, and I don't have to say I wish that it is annulled, so that it will serve as a mark for everybody who wants to enter political office, that it is not money that must pay. It must always be somebody with the best political expertise. Just as if you want a medical doctor, you cannot send a lawyer to Kolebu Teaching Hospital or Konfanoche Teaching Hospital, just as you cannot send an engineer to the courtroom to preside a case. In the case of parliament, you must also have the best brains going there. It must not be a place for the richest of people.
Lawyer, thanks for your time. But before you leave us, the issue of independent candidates coming in within the NDC's teams, how do you see it, even with Baba Jamal?
An independent candidate, no. Please, once, if I understood you well, if you are an independent candidate to contest an election in the country, I believe that it's a very Herculean task. In fact, if you study government, it is always better to align yourself with the political party so that it becomes easier, the burden becomes easier to carry. Because if you are independent, as the name says, you are digging your own grave. It is not easy that way. I would wish that all those who want to go independent must look at all the registered political parties in Ghana and see the one that meets their aspirations and join them. Then the work of EC becomes easier. The work of voters also becomes easier. And then they also spend less, because if you are the only person spending, it becomes so bad for you.
Lawyer Frimpong Anoche, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. That was Lawyer Frimpong Anoche sharing with us his impressions and comments on the Ayawaso East NDC primaries that just ended yesterday, with some issues of allegations on vote buying and vote selling. We continue in the same space where from Nima and Mamobi communities within the Ayawaso East constituency, GBC's Confidence Chikodo engaged some residents following the tightly contested elections. So residents expressed mixed reactions to the conduct of some aspirants, which many believe undermines the integrity of the electoral process.
Tensions are high at Nima and Mamobi following yesterday's parliamentary primary, hit by allegations of vote buying. As investigations are ongoing, the questions raised are transparency and accountability ahead of the by-elections in March.
As at Friday, there were a lot of up and downs going on. We saw motorbikes being shared foodstuffs being shared, food flags being shared. And yesterday, on the day of the elections, we saw television sets being given to delegates to influence the votes. And as at that time, when you are given a television set, they give you 3,000 Ghana cedis.
Kita ya delegates. Nti ya wo honom but ya hu se nkrofo kita TV. Since Friday no, ya hu se obomu kita motorbike. So ya hu se nkrofo kuta na omu fam na omu for hase.
Nyanya majiba na zuba wo ma vote na wo. Na ma adugia. Nye jikura nwo manyara kama a vote na adugie. Kaka wako nwakoko blamunya. Ike ma like wo. Kaka ma nwota ma dakono a menu. Ye kata Ghana sekai.
Yesterday what we did was people voted to Baba Jamal because what he did at Akotia, you know, when he comes here too, he will also do it for us. And when you come in terms of the by-election, the MPP also do it like that because they get their money, but they don't pump it inside. They only keep it in their pocket. We are delegates, and when they come to ours, within NDC, when we are having a meeting, that's Peter Mreku. He just came in and gave us money.
Meanwhile, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, OSP, has commenced investigations into the January 31 presidential primary of the New Patriotic Party and a real-time investigations into yesterday's NDC's primary at the Ayawaso East constituency. The investigations focused on allegations of vote buying, vote selling, and sources of funding of the alleged corrupt act. During the conduct of the NDC parliamentary primary at the Ayawaso East constituency, one of the candidates, Mohammed Baba Jamal Ahmed, allegedly abated tanks to physically attack an officer of the OSP who was serving an investigation directive on him in relation to vote buying and vote selling. The OSP, in a statement on Sunday, February 8th, 2026 says it has further opened investigations into the assault and reminds the public that the law prohibits corrupt acts in relations to public elections. It says it is a serious offense to engage in vote buying, vote selling, intimidation, threats of violence, and acts of violence in relation to elections. We know more of those will be unfolding and in our subsequent bulletin, and as the week goes by, we'll bring you everything about it on our news channel. The Accra Metropolitan Assembly AMA has announced a decision to double the monthly allowance of its street sweepers, including the stipend from 400 cedis to 800 Ghana cedis. It has been increased. So this bold fiscal move revealed by the Mayor of Accra is designed to make the sanitation sector good one and provide a more livable wage for the workers responsible for the capital's hygiene. So Mr. Alute emphasized that the 10%, 100% increment is a strategic attempt to lure the vibrant youth population into the sanitation workforce.
By making these roles more financially attractive, the AMA aims to tackle urban unemployment while simultaneously addressing the mounting waste challenges in the metropolis. The wage hike coincides with the metropolitan-wide rollout of the government's flagship 24-hour economy policy. Under this new framework, the AMA has transitioned its sanitation operations into a round-the-clock service, ensuring that waste collection and street cleaning continue throughout the night to minimize daytime traffic disruptions. Mayor Alute linked the success of this intensive work schedule directly to the welfare of the staff. The AMA's decision sets a new benchmark for municipal assemblies across Ghana, with national inflation currently stabilizing at 3.8%. The mayor believes that providing a competitive entry-level wage of 800 cedis will significantly reduce the desperation that often leads young people into informal or hazardous work. Mayor Alute urged his counterparts in other districts and municipalities to adopt similar upward adjustments to their payrolls to stimulate local economies.
We move to Takoradi, where the 32nd National Annual Ramadan Conference has set the stage for Ghana's Muslim community to prepare for Ramadan 2026. So according to the National Hilal community, the crescent will be sought on February 18, 2026, potentially marking February 19 as the first day of fasting, a time for reflection and devotion ahead of the Ramadan.
The 32nd National Annual Ramadan Conference wrapped up in Takoradi as the National Hilal Committee unveiled a new crescent search methodology to pinpoint Ramadan's start. While forecasts hint at February 18 as the first fasting day, the committee and chief imam's official announcement is the final word. Sheikh Yusuf Ihab broke down the moon sighting process, building anticipation for the holy month ahead.
Seduru Ramadan any Shawwal. Ubon se mentimi wase we ka we no ka we mam nipa ne pii no or the obi chrome calendar and odi ye adwuma. Yeso no udi calendar ye adwuma enye yi. Enye sa na ye komshani Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam say komshani se yenye chiriwia ebra yehu busolo. Yamfa chiriwia no mra ewiye ebra yehu busolo. Nemom se ewiem eye sakrana ni ekohwe busolo no ni ye ngudia eye shaban busolo no ye nhye ne ma edifoa ediasa. Anasa Ramadan busolo no ye nhye ne ma edifoa ediasa. Sane komshani Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam echere.
As the 2026 Ramadan conference drew to a close in Takoradi, the Omahini of Isikado traditional area, Nana Kobina Nkitsia, issued a poignant call, urging all to think of the legacy they leave behind. He encouraged Ghanaians to reflect on their impact, remembering that the time on earth is fleeting.
It's so important. What are we leaving behind for those coming after us? And that is what Ramadan is all about, for self-reflection. If you came with nothing and you go with nothing, then nothing here belongs to you. You are only entrusted to use it to serve the Lord, Allah.
The Executive Secretary of the National Chief Imam, Alhaji Osman Said, issued a heartfelt plea to imams across the country to stand united behind the committee's findings. His message was clear, and for all to come together to sight the moon and mark the start of Ramadan 2026 as one Muslim community. At the conference, Dr. Haruna Zangu Said of the University of Ghana, speaking on the theme, Our Earth, Our Future, urged imams and chiefs to champion environmental stewardship. He linked ozone layer depletion fueled by Galamsey and deforestation to moon sighting challenges, calling for action from pulpits and podiums.
Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire have begun implementing a new regional project to strengthen the resilience of coastal communities facing rising sea levels, erosion, and flooding. The initiative, funded by the Adaptation Fund, aims to protect livelihoods and support district assemblies with better planning tools to manage the worsening impact of climate change.
West Africa's coastline is losing land at rates of up to 2 to 4 meters per year, placing millions of people at risk as climate pressures intensify, a report by the World Bank. Flooding, coastal erosion and rising sea levels continue to threaten communities whose livelihoods depend on fishing and agriculture. Backed by the Adaptation Fund, the new regional initiative focuses on evidence-based planning, community-led adaptation and nature-based solutions to protect these high-risk areas. Senior Human Settlements Officer at UN Habitat, Matthias Spalivero, said the project applies a multi-scale planning approach across Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire, combining national strategies with direct and community-level action with strong participation from local communities who face the hardest impact of erosion, flooding, and destructive human activity along the coast.
The first concern of what is happening in the coastal area are the local communities. So they need to be involved in the planning process, and so that they can steer the decision made in these local plans, but also be responsible for implementing them.
The Director of Environment at the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, Mr. Peter J. Derry, said the project is still in its early stages, but work has begun on data collection, district-level training, and pilot restoration sites. He added that Ghana is losing part of its coastline at an alarming rate, affecting transport, fisheries, water resources, and coastal livelihoods.
Participatory planning is important. Planning must be very inclusive, because after planning comes implementation. Government alone cannot implement any community plan or district plan. You need a number of actors to be involved, both state and non-state actors. And so you need to bring everyone around the table. You have to leave no one behind, as has been said by the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And so participatory planning is very important. But beyond even participatory planning is the fact that you must move from planning to action. And that's what we are emphasizing today. How can the project support on-the-ground initiatives beyond just the plans that are going to be developed to ensure that the actual benefits are realized on the ground, and that we can also see the outcomes of the project in the coming years.
Implemented with support from UN Habitat and key national institutions, the initiative includes nature-based solutions such as mangrove restoration alongside efforts to improve community planning, regulate development, and protect fragile coastal ecosystems.
The Electricity Company of Ghana, ECG, is to embark on a planned maintenance works between February 8 and Friday, February 13, 2026, aimed at improving service delivery. The operations is expected to result in temporary outages, especially in affected communities in Accra East, Accra West, Central, and Tema areas. The most extensive single outage is scheduled for the Tema region on Thursday, February 12, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The company expressed that it regrets the inconveniences that will arise out of this exercise.
A notice dated Tuesday, February 10 states the affected areas will include Yilo and Lower Manyakrobo, Edukrom, Booster Station, Akole Pumpen Station, Akuse, Esuchare, Golden Exotics, Volivo, Osurim, Commandos Military Training Camp, Stone Lodge, Shine Field, Akradi, Senchi, Atimpoku, Adome, Dwabeng, Akwamufi, Frankadua, Nudu, Kisifui, Apeguso, Volo, Enum, Boso, Osiabura, Mpakadan, Okwenya, Tei Kwame, Manya Jupanya, Glamour Farms and its environs. Accra East region will see staggered outages across several days. An early notice for Sunday, February 8 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. will impact Gempa, Kiseman, Achimota School, Christian Village, North Jolu, Gulf Hills, Achimota Forest, part of Abelenkwe, Westland and surrounding areas. Subsequent works in the same region are planned for Tuesday, February 10 in Boteman, Baoleshi, Okbonglo Town, East Legon Achampon Junction, Wednesday, February 11 in Lakeside East, Community 6, 8 and 9, New Legon Hills, Taiman Junction, SDA, Ankonam Farms, Oyarifa Town, and Thursday, February 12 in Tutu, Obosumase, Mampong Cabbage Junction. A separate Monday, February 9 maintenance will affect North Jolu, Lancet Laboratory, Mensvik Hotel, Ghana Link, Agbogba School Park, Academic City, Boshe DVLA, Boshe Naman. In the Accra West region, a significant outage is planned for Wednesday, February 11, encompassing Fadama, Kwashiman, Nyameche, Dakuman, Abeka, La Paz, Tabora, Racecourse, Kwashibu, Chantan, Hansonic Dansoman Junction, Malam Junction, McCarthy, Choice, Sampa Valley, Alogboshi, Achimota Neoplan, Benjilo, Manhian, and Oduman. Other Accra West works will affect Abase, Achiama, Obeye, Ayikaindo Blue, Akraman on Thursday, February 12, New Botiano, Red Top on Friday, 13 February, and Nsumia on Monday, 9th February. Notably, the Accra West region has also announced an emergency maintenance for Sunday, February 8 from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. affecting Nsawam Township, Doblo, Medie, Pobiman, Sapeman, Kotoku, Blue Skies, Les Fiber, Adeso, and Otuase. Outside the capital, the central region will experience an outage on Monday, February 9 from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Areas affected include Opekuma Junction, American Town, Kaemebre, New Market, Akwele, Cross River, Ano Town, Ofanko, J River, Papase, J Krodia, Bodrasi Township, and its environs.
The sod has been cut for the construction of 11 boreholes across the Ayawaso West constituency in the Greater Accra region, engineered by the Member of Parliament, Mr. John Dumelo, with support of the Municipal Chief Executive, Dr. Mensah. The projects are to improve the water situation in Ayawaso West. Mr. Dumelo also pledged to complete all existing boreholes or borehole projects initiated by the previous administration before the middle of 2026.
We're happy that today we are cutting the sod for boreholes across Ayawaso West Wogan. Water is life, and as such, I'm very happy to be part of this. And I also want to assure, especially the community here in Roman Ridge, that the two existing boreholes, I will renovate it for you so that it will be working as soon as possible. And so, let's hope and pray that it comes to pass in Jesus' name. Amen. But all I want to say is that all these boreholes that we are doing, let us take very good care of it, because it is the taxpayers' money that we are using. And as such, we need to take very good care of it so that we'll come back here after a year or 2 years and realize that the boreholes are still working. And so thank you so much. God bless you, and a day for you.
Move to strengthen domestic financing and oversight of immunization as Ghana prepares for declining donor support for vaccines. A new parliamentary immunization caucus has therefore been launched, signaling renewed political commitment to protecting child health and sustaining gains made under the country's national immunization program.
Vaccines remain one of Ghana's strongest defenses against preventable diseases, especially for children. But as donor support declines, sustaining these gains requires stronger local leadership. The launch of the Parliamentary Immunization Caucus is aimed at strengthening legislative oversight, securing sustainable financing, and safeguarding Ghana's public health gains, particularly as external donor support continues to decline. The Director of Policy Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation at the Ministry of Health, Dr. Belinda Nimako, disclosed that Ghana increased its national vaccine allocation by 46% in 2025, amounting to about $171 million, enabling the country to fully meet its vaccine financing obligations for the year.
By securing predictable and sustainable financing, we will protect the gains achieved under the expanded program on immunization, gradually reduce dependence on external funding in line with our health sovereignty agenda, and further strengthen primary healthcare delivery.
Chairperson of the Parliamentary Immunization Caucus and Member of Parliament for Dafiama Busa Issa, Dr. Sebastian Sandari, underscored the importance of bipartisan political commitment, especially as Ghana transitions towards vaccine self-financing.
In Ghana, the expanded program on immunization, EPI, has been central to improving child survival and health outcomes. However, as donor support dwindles and Gavi's co-financing requirements increase, it is imperative that we secure predictable domestic resources to maintain and build upon these hard-won gains.
The forum, organized by Hope for Future Generations in partnership with the Ministry of Health, Gavi, and other global health partners, also highlighted Ghana's target of achieving vaccine self-financing by January 2030 in line with Gavi's 2026-2030 investment framework, which seeks to immunize 500 million children globally.
And thank you to Mr. Speaker for supporting this cause.
Ghana is intensifying effort towards food self-sufficiency, focusing on irrigation and agri-investment to boost local production, cut import and strengthen the economy. Finance Minister Dr. Ato Forson visited the Kpong irrigation site at Esuchare in the Greater Accra region, affirming the government's commitment to transforming agriculture with World Bank support under the West Africa Food Security Resilience Program, FSRP.
It highlights Ghana's push to modernize agriculture, promote climate-smart practices, and boost food security. Finance Minister Dr. Kasiel Ato Forson said the government with World Bank support is nearing completion of key irrigation projects focusing on rice, soya, and maize, which are staples that can significantly improve food security if importation is reduced. Dr. Ato Forson also announced plans by the government to develop 100,000 hectares of irrigated land with potential to reach 400,000 hectares. He assured farmers that the school feeding program will prioritize local produce, creating a reliable market for Ghanaian farmers.
Government of Ghana, working with the World Bank, have developed and we are about to complete. And so we are targeting 100,000 hectares of palm plantation. We are also targeting rice for Ghana to be self-sufficient in rice. But to you, farmers, I want to assure you that His Excellency the President has directed that school feeding program in particular buy made in Ghana food to be able to use to feed our school children.
World Bank's Division Director for Ghana, Liberia and Sierra Leone, Mr. Robert Taliesio, said the initiative supports Ghana's priority to develop agriculture, a key GDP contributor. He said strengthening irrigation and productivity at Kpong will help build a resilient food system in Ghana.
The agriculture sector in Ghana is about a fifth of GDP currently, and it accounts for over a third of employment in Ghana. What are the constraints? Infrastructure is the thing that keeps coming up. Investments in irrigation, investments in roads, farm-to-market roads, etc. And so the bank is committed to providing support to the government of Ghana to address some of these constraints in infrastructure.
The West Africa Food System Resilience Project is a Government of Ghana project funded by the World Bank, coordinated by ECOWAS, and implemented in 8 West African countries. Its goal is to boost food security, preparedness, and resilience in the sub-region.
The Rotary Club Accra Labone has unveiled its 25th anniversary with an ambitious plan to broaden their reach, targeting vulnerable communities nationwide.
Behind them, Rotary Club Accra Labone is gearing up for greater impact. At the anniversary launch, the club president Kukwa Chumba shared details of plans to scale up initiatives focusing on deprived areas, From water and sanitation projects to maternal health care, education and literacy programs, the club's track record speaks volume.
We don't usually come with new projects. We build on the existing projects, so then it becomes an annual project that we do. So we've had projects that we do. We've done some in the Upper East, we've done some in the Northern region, Volta region, almost throughout the country. We've also adopted the Layahoshua JHS. That is in Labone. It's a government school. Over the past 6 years, we've been able to give them a well-stocked library, a well-equipped computer lab. We have renovated their washrooms.
She was grateful to members and encouraged them to solidify bonds nurtured over the years and also unite toward achieving the club's goals.
We are very vibrant, and that is what we are known for. Some people see us as a noisy club, but we call ourselves very vibrant. That is my hope, that we will build upon all the things that we have now and be better, so that in the next 25 years, when the story is being told, it will be told of very good things.
Chartered in 2021, it was June 29, 1996 that was the start, and 25 years of giving back is something to celebrate. The Rotary Club of Accra Labone has built a reputation for impactful philanthropy. As they mark this milestone, they are keeping their eyes on the prize, making a lasting difference. Their 25th anniversary theme says it all: honoring our past, inspiring our future.
In a call to action, Muslim leaders are being urged to reclaim the dignity and unity that once defined Ghana's Zongo communities. At the turbaning of the new Western Regional Fulani Chief Alhaji Yakubu Musa Bari highlighted the importance of reviving values like respect, honesty and education, referencing the disciplined lifestyle of military barracks. The goal is to share their narrative with the world and restore the Zongo's former glory.
In Takrady, Captain Retired Hussein Sambo, a veteran of Ghana's Armored Reconnaissance Regiment, is on a mission to revive the community's lost glory. Alhaji Yakubu Musa Bari paints a stark picture that Zongo communities, once beacons of dignity, are now hubs for illicit drug trade, eroding respect and tarnishing reputations. Mothers, once pillars of moral guidance, are now entangled in the trade, threatening the very fabric of the community. Alhaji Bari's message to leaders is loudly saying it's time to reclaim the Zongo's reputation and contribute to Ghana's growth. He urges all Fulanis to unite for development and earn the rightful respect as the community looks towards a brighter future.
As Waziri, I'm here. I'm pledging my support, my unflinching support for the chief, together with the other cabinet members. We'll give our unflinching support to the chief, and we are going to support him in every aspect of it for us to succeed as a team.
Alhaji Bari is urging Western Region youth to ditch Galamsey, embrace responsible mining and protect the Zongo's reputation.
Let's support the government to fight Galamsey anywhere it is in the country.
The MP for Kwesimente, Mr. Philip Fifi Bachman, a lawyer, credits Zongos for shaping him. He says the love, discipline and unity he learned there made him who he is today.
Build the communities. They make people see the community as a peaceful place, as a lovely place, as a place where you habit and you grow.
The MCE for Efia Kwesimente Metropolitan Assembly, Abdul Majid Tukurugu, pointed at the need for education in the Zongo communities as the best legacy to bequeath the youth.
Now, you have for education as one of the key areas able to assist young community. In Pempe no, actually often in the Mabono wa na pede Zongo fu na pede then ye di ni me kwaye o ye ndru bon no ni am robbery na de no on faten onye ye adwuma.
With his turban freshly tied, Waziri Captain Retired Hussein Sambo vows to unite Fulanis and drive youth development in Western Region. He believes unity is key, charting a new course for progress.
Let's do some business stories. Ghana has recovered more than $700 million in additional revenue from its mining sector over the past 2 decades, following transparency-driven reforms under the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. The gains were highlighted at the launch of Ghana's 2023 EIT report, which tracks how revenues from mining, oil and gas are collected and used.
Speaking at the launch of Ghana's 2023 EIT reports, co-chair of the Ghana EIT Multi-Stakeholder Group, Dr. Steve Mateo, said the initiative empowers citizens with information to demand accountability in the management of mineral, oil and gas resources. He recalled that the global initiative was created after the World Summit on Sustainable Development to address the question of why resource-abundant nations continue to struggle with poverty.
The reforms that were undertaken over the period in the mining sector, based on a study undertaken by the Ghana EITI, has resulted in some over $700 million in additional revenues that otherwise would have been lost to the state. The reforms include the variation of the mineral royalty rate from a range of 3 to 6% to a fixed rate of 5%. As we speak, there are proposals to vary it again to between 5% and 12%.
Chief Director at the Ministry of Finance, who is also the co-chair of the stakeholder group, Dr. Patrick Nomo, said the independent verification of data strengthens Ghana's microeconomic framework by ensuring that government figures can be validated against external sources.
On the external side, the sector contributed a net foreign exchange inflow of $3.9 billion in 2023, bolstering the balance of payment position of the country and supporting currency stability.
The 2023 report is based on audited data in line with EIT standards and covers the activities, revenues and expenditures of state agencies and companies within the extractive sector.
Of our 80th anniversary and a special book launch on the school's history, authored by Dr. Charles Prempeh, esteemed academic from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, featuring an inspiring lecture from Professor Clements Bansumwa, former president of Christ Apostolic University College, both alumni of WAS. Mark your calendars on Friday, February 13, 2026 at the Ghana Shippers Authority Hall, Accra. Time is 3 p.m. sharp. Keynote speaker and guest of honor is His Royal Majesty King Takiteko Chu II, Gamanche. Once at 80, Lord Chui Imashi.
GTV, the authentic and trusted voice of Ghana.
News are on GTV and GBC News. On the international front, the leaders of Uganda and Tanzania have held bilateral talks in Dar es Salaam aimed at enhancing cooperation between the two countries. Discussions focused on trade, infrastructure, and regional peace. Host President Samia Hassan and her Tanzanian counterpart President Yoweri Museveni held their meeting underscored the deep-rooted connections between the two neighbors, which dates back to the 1960s when both nations gained independence from the Britain. The talks also covered plans to integrate rail networks, the construction of natural gas and petroleum pipelines, and reducing trade barriers. President Museveni's visit to Tanzania comes just weeks after he won a 7th term in office in Uganda's contested elections. It was also the first time to Tanzania by a foreign head of state since its disrupted October 2026 polls that returned President Samia Hassan to office. President Samia Hassan said the construction of the East African crude oil pipeline project was on track, with oil transportation expected to commence in July. The $5 billion electrically heated crude pipeline will be used to export oil from Uganda fields through Tanzania's Tanga port. Both presidents highlighted the project as a module of the strong bilateral relations between the two countries. Let's do some sports. President of the Ghana Supporters Union, Mr. Abraham Boakye, has promised a massive turnout for the national under-20 female football team, the Black Princesses, as they play South Africa. The encounter is the first leg of their third-round FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup qualifier.
On Sunday, the Accra Sports Stadium will come alive as the national under-20 female football team, the Black Princesses, come face-to-face with their counterparts from South Africa. The encounter is the third round of the qualifiers for the upcoming FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. The Princesses defeated Tunisia 4-0 in aggregate to advance to the third round and will be hoping to beat South Africa to progress to the next stage. The Supporters Union, numbering over 300, say they will throng the Accra Sports Stadium on Sunday to cheer the Princesses on to victory. President of the Ghana Supporters Union, GANTU, Mr. Abraham Boakye, says all branches will be present.
These are the ones that traveled. We have times 10 of this. Not all of us can go. We have Wassa branch, we have Mampong branch, we have Suhum branch, we have Kumasi branch, we have everywhere. So we select them. So those you are seeing here, these are the people who traveled. They are the minority. Okay. A large people, because of today, it's a working day. You see more buses over there. More than 500, 600 people will come. Yes. All what you need, the corporate, that they should see us as a good people. Okay. If you want us to market your product for you, if you are looking for 100, we will give you 1,000. Marriage. Not even what you expected. If you are looking for 100, we will give you 10,000 over your expectation.
A convincing win on Sunday will make the second leg a done deal.
The match, of course, is a done deal for the Black Princesses. We are hoping for the best for them. The Director General of the National Sports Authority, NSA, Mr. Yao Ampofo-Ankra, has paid a surprise visit to the Kalibi Volleyball Club's training grounds at the Kaukudi Social Center in Accra. The visit was to get updates on the club's preparations ahead of the upcoming CAVB Zone 3 Club Championships, which will be hosted in Accra.
Visit by the Director General of the National Sports Authority, Mr. Yao Ampofo-Ankra, was to assess the readiness of the Kalibi Volleyball Club as preparations intensify for the CAF B Zone 3 Club Championship scheduled to take place from March 1 to March 10 in Accra. Mr. Ankra, accompanied by officials of the authority, also used the occasion to assure the volleyball of the NSA's full support, particularly towards the successful organization of the championship and beyond. Addressing the playing body, the NSA Director General pledged to give 200% commitment towards the maintenance of national sports facilities and urged the team to raise the flag of Ghana high when the championship commences.
Because there's no money, sports cannot develop. Is that true? It's not true. You guys are not here because of money. But money perhaps would be the end result, right? If it was just money, a lot of us would not be here. What's going to happen is that he will come and then he will tell us why we should put some money into volleyball, handball, any other sport of interest. So it's very important that you are not distracted or discouraged by the notion that without money you cannot progress.
Technical coach of Calibi Volleyball Club, Abeku Kwenu, expressed appreciation to the NSA Director General, describing the visit as a major motivation to the playing body and the entire Calibi sporting fraternity.
What we are saying is that because Oliver Twist always asks for more, we want you to come again. And next time when coming, we expect that sportsmen will always ask you to give them something to enjoy. And so we hope that maybe by next week, you will come again and come and give us what the men can use to energize themselves to the competition. We have just 23 days to the competition.
President of the host club, Calibi Volleyball Club, Mr. Bernard Mona, also provided updates on preparations for the Zone 3 Club Championship, expressing confidence that the tournament will be successful. The CAF B Zone 3 Club Championship in Accra is expected to attract clubs from Nigeria, Liberia, Ghana, Togo, Burkina Faso, Mali, Niger, Benin, Cote d'Ivoire, and Sierra Leone.
That will be all for news at 2. Till then, enjoy the rest of our programs. We come your way at 7 for more news updates. Good afternoon.
WAS is 80 years old. Hooray! Join us to kick off the celebrations for this historic milestone. It's the launch of our 80th anniversary and a special book launch on the school's history, authored by Dr. Charles Prempeh, esteemed academic from Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. Featuring an inspiring lecture from Professor Clements Bansumwa, former president of Christ Apostolic University College, both alumni of WAS. Mark your calendars on Friday, February 13, 2026 at the Ghana Shippers Authority Hall, Accra. Time is 3 p.m. sharp. Keynote speaker and guest of honor is His Royal Majesty King Takiteko Chu II, Gamanche. WAS at 80, Lord Chui Imashi.
Migration, it has woven itself into the very fabric of human history, and in the 21st century, it stands as one of the defining global challenges of our time. As people move across borders or within nations, they don't just carry luggage, they carry something far more powerful: the essence of their culture, how they live, what they believe, and how they connect with others. Culture shapes who we are. It grounds us in our values, our choices, and our sense of belonging. Even in a world that's changing faster than ever. But migration puts the foundation to test, introducing individuals to new ways of life and familiar customs and evolving social norms. In this documentary, we journey into the heart of this cultural transformation, exploring how migration shapes identities and fosters rich cultural exchange among Ghanaian migrant returnees, members of the diaspora, and immigrants living in Ghana. We engage with the people at the forefront, from the National Commission on Culture to UNESCO, the Center for Migration Studies, the Ministry of Interior, and the Office of Diaspora Affairs under the Presidency, and stakeholders working hand in hand with migrant communities. Together, we uncover the dynamic story of cultural identity in motion and the ever-evolving dialogue between tradition and change.
When we talk about migration, there has to be a boundary. The boundary can be internal, it can be international. So for instance, in Ghana, if you are moving from Accra or Greater Accra region to Kumasi or the whole of Ashanti region, you are crossing a boundary, an internal boundary. So we call it internal migration. And then there's a second one where you move beyond Ghana. So that's when you are crossing the border to maybe Togo, to Benin, even to abroad or anywhere. Let me try to make a distinction, since we are educating people, between mobility and migration. So mobility includes all the frequent movements, which doesn't have a duration. So when we talk about migration, we also attach some time, because we talk about issues of integration, adaptation. So the people need to stay over a period and maybe get adjusted. And so there are different time limits. Some make it 3 months. In some of the Center for Migration projects, we have made them 3 months. And then, for instance, some of the UN agencies describe it as 6 months or 12 months. So some 12 months, depending on which definition you are leaning more towards to. Then mobility then will include our cross-border traders. So you see the women who go to Togo, Benin to bring all those foodstuffs and clothing. They do it frequently. And those who go to China, Accra, London, Accra, those times, those are mobilities because they are frequently moving in between and across borders. And so the mobility is more broader. You can also relate it to the nomads, the headers who move from Nigeria through to Ghana. So broadly, when we talk about all kinds of movements, we put that into mobility, and that could even include your imagination. So there are times, recently we are doing studies on mobilities, and we are talking about people moving in their minds, and I'm sure you can understand this, where a Ghanaian is called maybe Canadian burger, but has never been to Canada before or has never crossed, because the whole of the person's mind has, although the person is in Ghana, the person is thinking Canada. And so in the mind of the person, the presence of that person physically is here, but the mind is not here. So all those imaginations are part of the mobilities that we do. When we talk about migration, we have the pre-colonial times, we have the colonial times, and we have the post-colonial times, or what we call the contemporary. Before the coming of the colonial masters, people were moving. And so even within our cultures, we had the superpowers, we had the Ashanti Kingdom, we had all the Songhai Empire. And so people were moving and people ruled over others. So people are always moving to make their lives better. So the colonial times also, we can relate it to when the coming of the whites came, the Europeans, and decided to share our land and all that. Migration didn't cease. We found that historically, people moved from rural areas to come to the industrial areas. So, you know, they came with these plantation ideas, they had farms, big farms, and so people left their subsistence farming to work in these industrial and big plantation farms. The women particularly worked as domestic workers in the homes, the men were working on the farms, And so people left those areas to work in the farms of these colonial masters. So that is also another form of movement. So it's not as if we didn't have movement. We had movement. And then the dynamics and the patterns are the ways that have changed. So the reason and the route of migration changed. Then the post-colonial, even prior to independence, some of our forefathers went out to study. They went to England, they had different education. After the post-colonial, some also educated themselves. I've interviewed doctors from Russia, from Cuba, from all these other places. So people migrated to better themselves in terms of education. When we talk about movements, 70% of movements, and even beyond, 70-80% are internal at all levels. So most people are moving within Ghana, not outside Ghana. Most people move from one city to the other city or to the rural area or from rural to urban areas. That is not to say that people are not moving into the urban areas. They are. But we find that people are moving to closer rural areas and villages than to move into the cities. Although we are also increasingly experiencing urbanization, which shows that people are moving more into the cities as well. Ghanaians are found mostly within the ECOWAS region, so Nigeria. So if we complain Nigerians are here, we are also there. So when you check the statistics, Nigerians are more in Ghana. On the other hand, it's the same. So Ghanaians are mostly within the ECOWAS sub-region. They move to either Togo, they move to Nigeria, they move to all those places. They also move within Africa. And then some also move to some destination countries outside Africa. So we have UK, we have the US, we have Canada, we have Germany, Italy, as these are some of the destination countries where Ghanaians are mostly.
Migration unit was actually set up by Cabinet Directive in 2006, that's exactly in February. It actually came to place fully, established fully in 2008. Around that time, by the beginning of the second millennium, we actually saw a surge in the number of irregular migrants moving across the deserts, across the Mediterranean to get to Europe. So again, around that time, Ghana had also joined international bodies like the International Organization for Migration and the African-European Dialogue on Migration, commonly known as the Rabat process. They were actually coming out with policies. And we, as a country, didn't have any national body to directly deal with migration. Though we had institutions that were dealing on migration matters, in a very fragmented manner, like the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, which were dealing with the diaspora and foreigners, the Ghana Immigration Service dealing with immigrants, the Ministry of Labor were also dealing with labor migration, and the Ministry of Interior dealing with issues with respect to citizenship. So the migration unit was actually set up under the Ministry of Interior to coordinate all migration issues in the country.
The Diaspora Affairs Office of the President was established in 2017.
You probably want to call us the bridge between Ghana and its diasporas. We make sure that since we got into power, we become probably want to call it the hub of facilitation for the diaspora in Ghana.
The idea was that we would promote and advocate on behalf of the diaspora at the highest level of governance. In Ghana, we have essentially 3 categories of the diaspora that we were targeting. The historical diaspora, which is those who were, became diaspora as a result of slavery. And some have been giving birth over there in the diaspora. So again, the millennials.
Second, third generation diasporans, we want to be intentional to make sure that these people also think about Ghana as they grow up and gain a lot of skills and advancements in their own lives. They should be able to give back to Ghana.
And then the recent migrant of Ghanaians who had gone to live outside Ghana and, were still related to us as people.
My migration story is actually in 2 folds. As a young child, I think about 9, 10, my family, my mom and dad were in England, in the UK at the time. And, one day, I'm from Kumasi, they're like, you're coming to Accra. So, you're a kid, And I think they must have told us maybe a week before that you're going to Abroche. At that age, you don't know where Abroche is, right? You just know Abroche is abroad somewhere. And even all this time, like when my dad had left, when my mom had left, it was my mom, my dad was first going to Abroche, then my mom was going to Abroche. So I remember like around age 9, 10, where my older sister and I, they brought us to Accra and then onto Ghana Airways, and then ended up in London till 2008, 2009. I decided to, migrate back to Ghana? What shaped my return coming? I literally remember around 2007, 2008, there was this old talk of, oil, and, there was like an influx of just people, just excitement about Ghana. And I'd come on holiday and I was about to go back, and a friend said this to me, is that, Amma, when do you want to come back to Ghana? And I'm like, oh, I don't know, in about 10 years, or in like 15 years, 20 years. Ghana was, for me, a holiday, coming back home to see family and go back and chill. But he said something to me, he's like, look, if you keep going, there'll be a time that you may come and Ghana would have gone so fast and gone so forward that you'll be behind. And I was like, okay. So I remember during the 2008, global economic crash, I was working for a TV station in London. Things were really bad. I hadn't been paid for like 6 months. They owed us money. And I was like, what have I got to lose? And literally, I remember I then decided to pack my bags, and I said to myself, I'm going to Ghana. And bear in mind, this time I've been working in TV for a very long time. Like at that time, I had easily, I started my career officially 98, 99, thereabouts. That one, more training, but I was in TV. So at that time, coming in 2008, almost 10 years of TV experience, so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna just come back to Ghana and I'm gonna get a job like this, and it was an excitement. And then, yeah, that was what prompted the move back home. Then I became a returnee back into my own country.
The year that I migrated to Ghana was actually in 2002. And my motivation for coming to Ghana was after about 2 years of research looking at many other countries in Africa. I always knew that eventually I wanted to settle somewhere in Africa, but I didn't know the country. So what my husband and I did, we visited about 25 African countries over a 2-year period, from South Africa to Namibia, Nigeria, and many, many others. And in the end, we decided on Ghana. Now, if you can think back of what Ghana was like more than 20 years ago, a lot of people were like, why? It's crazy. Why are you thinking of Ghana? However, we could see where Ghana was going. It was very obvious that it was developing, and we wanted a place that was developing and not already developed.
I migrated to the United States of America, New Jersey to be precise, 2005. And motivation was to exchange the culture, to see what goes on around there, and also with my husband.
In simple terms, culture means the way of life of a group of people, or a nation, or a society. And this includes their beliefs, their norms, their language, that's how they communicate, their religion, their traditions and customs, that's the way their festivals are celebrated, the way their customary rites are also celebrated, the food they eat, what they wear. For instance, what I'm wearing today, at least when you see me, you can tell that I am from an African country. Then you start thinking, which African country is that? So culture gives us identity. And all these things are all learned and passed on from one generation to the other. The National Commission on Culture is an agency under the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. It was established in 1990 by the PNDC Law 238. So it's the only institution that has been mandated by law to manage from a holistic point the cultural values and expressions of the people of Ghana. So our key responsibility is to promote and preserve our culture. The National Commission on Culture plays a pivotal and crucial role in fostering cultural exchange for migrants. All our flagship programs are aimed at fostering that kind of unity that we are talking about. We have the National Festival of Arts and Culture, which is a platform that seeks to showcase the Ghanaian culture. We have Wear Ghana that seeks to link us, to give us an identity as to what we wear, our mode of dressing and things. And I must also say that our regional centers for national culture also have craft shops that have our artifacts displayed and sold there. And they also have literature about Ghana, which seeks to reconnect migrants to our culture and to help them assimilate and adapt our Ghanaian culture. The National Commission on Culture works closely with the Ghana National Commission for UNESCO on programs that promote culture and education.
UNESCO in full is the United Nations Educational, Cultural and Scientific Organization. These days it is simply known as UNESCO. It was set up in 1945 after the Second World War. UNESCO is made up of state parties. State parties just means countries. At present, 193 countries make up UNESCO, almost all the countries in the world, just a few are not. Our job as a commission is to represent the government or the state party at UNESCO and also ensure that the government or the country as a state party is doing what we have agreed to do at UNESCO. So we have a dual function, ensuring that our voice is heard when we go to UNESCO, so that no country makes rules that we do not agree to.
My migration experience, it has been mostly very positive. Generally speaking, I feel I've been extremely fortunate. And I say that because the friends that I made when I landed here, like our neighbors that used to live next door, they were just so helpful, so warm, so inviting. And they helped us transition through, you know, the red tape and all of that. But on the other side, yes, there were people who tried to take advantage and some who did. But, you know, you now look back and you laugh at it. At the time, it might have gotten me really angry or very frustrated at the situation not being here. I've been fortunate enough to go to every corner of Ghana, both for work and for pleasure. I've experienced rainforests. In Ghana. I've had such an amazing series of adventures that even the little things that might have been distracting or upsetting to other people, it was not enough to color my whole experience of being in Ghana.
I remember going to primary school. Hey, God, your name, Amma Kwinedu Abebrese. Amma is easy enough, people got it. Abebrese became Abebrezi because the Kwinedu didn't even come part. Like, they forget the K. So most people know Amma K. Yes. So it was just, you get a sense, and you're young, and you're adapting, you know, you're different. And you know the funny thing is, some of the people teasing you about your name is not even just the white kids. It's some of the other black students. That was a time when you used to turn on TV, and I remember being in secondary school, and there was always fundraising for Ethiopia, And for them, Ethiopia was Africa. And I'll never forget this. They're like, yeah, you're from Africa. You people are starving. You're starving, you're dying. And I'm like, and the images they'll show on TV of deserts and famine, that was not my experience coming from Ghana. But it's like they're telling you, this is Africa. And you're like, I've just come from Africa. This is not it. But you're 9, 10, 11, 12. So you can't tell, they think you're lying. And I think that's part of the reason that even with unconsciously, I decided I had to get in the media. I had to get into storytelling, knowing how powerful the media is. There's still people today in the Western world who think all of Africa is those starving images. Because if I tell you, we'd seen it so long. So it was that thing of, I was made fun of, they laughed at my name, my accent, they laughed at me, hey, African boo-boo, got all of it. And kids can be cruel.
Life in America, I'll say the driving part, the money part, that's the nickel, dimes, and all that. I had to learn those, being that the industry that I was in. Another one was the driving, because the driving, there's so much difference between Ghana here and over there. There's two different ones. And then the food as well, different culture background. McDonald's, I want Bangkun, you're giving me McDonald's, you're giving me chicken fried rice and all that. It was really tough for me though, seriously, honestly, it was very tough for me. It took me a very long time to recover, to be able to get my food. And it's so expensive. The food, like our food, the Ghana food, is so expensive. The weather when you first arrive here, the weather will beat you up because you can't use our normal clothes. Like I brought two big bags, and they all ended up in the basement because they're so light. You need heavy clothes, if not you'll be sick. I went around during winter, so it was very cold. So you need multiple to keep you warm. And it took me like 2 years to recover because I'm always cold.
So the culture shock that I got was how they treat a person when he or she dies. So the person can say, when I die, don't bury me, cremate me. So they do that and keep the ashes as memory.
I'll never forget the first day we arrived in Heathrow. My mom and dad and I think my auntie came to pick us from it was me and my sister because we traveled as unaccompanied minors. They met us at the airport, they collected us, got on the tube and took a train. And this was the shocker for, me instantly, like just arrived from Kotoka straight. We got to, I'll never forget, Hammersmith tube station. And when we're getting off the tube, my auntie's cardigan fell on, for those people who live in London especially, we have the trains, the tube, and there's usually a gap before you step onto the tube. And my auntie's cardigan fell in between the gap onto the tracks. Now, I'm from Kumasi, railways. As a kid, my mom had a shop in KGTR Market, so I used to play with the kids all around, like Ghana, you see railways, kids are going like on and off. So I don't remember too much of it. All I said to my mom is, oh, I'll get it when the train moved, and I was about to jump onto the tracks to collect it. And my mom grabbed me. So hey, what about wood this day? Because obviously the train is not the same. It's literally like, the trains are coming every 2 minutes. That was a culture shock. And my mom and my dad were like, hey, I was like, what's the big deal? So that was, I think, my first instant that I've come into a totally different destination.
The biggest cultural shock that I could say smacked me in the face was that in some communities, the woman has no voice, even though she, in my opinion, and I could be biased, is the hardest working gender on the planet. And where it really manifested itself was the fact that one of the opportunities I had was to basically interview a group of farmers in a very remote part in Ghana. And I was speaking to them about how a cell phone could help them in their farming activities. And they assembled the farmers for us to speak to, and it was all men, some, young boys, maybe 14, all men. And we spoke at length, and then we finished. And then a little girl, about 6 or 7, she came and she tugged on my skirt. And she says, "What are you saying while the men are listening to you? My mommy wants to know." I was shocked. And when I looked over her shoulder, there were the same amount of men that were there. There were women sitting there. Now, because I was speaking English and the translator was a distance away, they didn't know what was happening. But they were blown away by the fact that these men were sitting, listening, and talking to me, a female, that they sent this little girl to ask me. That's when you know what I had observed was the reality. And then, so what I did, I then called the interpreter and asked him to come, and I had the same meeting with the women.
We have actually mainstreamed migration into our national agenda.
The Center for Migration Studies led the development of the National Migration Policy,
which was actually launched in development in 2016, has strategies for migration desk officers to be set up in almost every institution, including the district assemblies.
And then we have the diaspora policy, which also the center supported myself and colleagues. Then we have the National Labor Migration Policy, again to protect Ghanaians who go outside to work.
And again, we have a number of protocols, legal frameworks like the Immigration Act of 573 and the Citizenship Act. These are all programs or legal frameworks that have been set in place to integrate migrants into a system. And we are talking of people who want to even naturalize, those who even want to even have residence permits. Apart from that, the ECOWAS protocol,
which allows citizens of member states access to Ghana without visas for stay no longer than 3 months. And this kind of policy helps in understanding each other's cultures.
And so all these are policy frameworks that are guiding Ghana in terms of protecting its diaspora, protecting Ghanaian migrants who go out and those who are also within.
Until recently, there has been little research on immigrants in Ghana, but we have exceptional cases of migrants in Ghana. We have the Nigerians, Malians, the Lebanese, Chinese, right? And all this will bring their different cultures to bear on our prevalent culture. So they tend to diversify. They come with their religion, they come with their own way of doing things. We can even find a number of eateries, restaurants, Chinese restaurants, Nigerian restaurants, and they are actually having influence on our culture.
We have quite a number of initiatives
that the country was embarking on to engage the diaspora, going around some specific countries to interact with the diaspora, solicit their views towards that diaspora engagement policy that we had set ourselves to do. And that was what we called the road shows. That took us from countries to countries, most notably the US, UK, Germany, Canada, those popular ones. And then, of course, we had the full circle, which was the Hollywood stars who came together and decided to visit Ghana during that historic time that, they gave a lot of prominence to the country in terms of the social platforms that they operate among themselves. We have been doing so many things that would deliberately make sure that people could identify with our culture. And I'm so happy that after, all the initiatives that were embarked on, even the traditional authorities within the country took it upon themselves to also then, go and organize themselves to attract attention. Notably, the Asante Hene's trip to, the Americas and to the Caribbeans were very, very sort of welcome, and it basically put our culture there. These are all being done in the vein of the official policy of diaspora engagement, and that's what we had put out there, that there was the need and the necessity to engage our diaspora. I had seen in them as an asset that we needed to mobilize. We have promoted some basic initiatives like Chicago Fest.
Miss Ghana UK Party in the Park, Ghana Fest in South Africa, which took place not too long ago with Kwabena. We're getting ready for the big event. Diaspora Summits, we're bringing my brothers and sisters, both Ghanaian and those historic diasporans, to come back home, changing the narrative. It's not just going to be better to be saying back, come have fun and go, but to do something more meaningful, because we see the diaspora as the 17th region for this country. So they are coming, that's actually the theme for this year's event. They're coming back home to intentionally engage with that.
It's interesting to know that one common thing that we have also been using to showcase our culture is through funeral organizations. Living out there in Europe was always, an opportunity during funeral times to let people know who we are. And, everybody knew that when it's a Ghanaian funeral, that's when you see the various, dressings and the dancings and everything that we do as Ghanaians being portrayed.
One place where I see the most exhibition of Ghana's culture is actually at funerals. And it took me a while to really realize it. But I realized that the funerals are an incredible display of centuries-old traditions. And because Ghanaians grow up around it, they don't see it through the lens that I see it. But it explains so much to me.
And again, I just want to also mention the fact that one would have noticed lately how during engagements and weddings, our youth, the millennials, have taken to our culture, and almost everyone wants to wear something that can be used to identify them as who we are. So that's all positive, and these are all trying to resolve the issues that they have as people, trying to relate back to their identity. Officially, GTA is charged with that key responsibility of trying to promote our culture within the diaspora, and they have been doing that successfully. We've been partnering with them just as well with GIPC for some of the investment drives, and it's all basically to get them to know that this is what we have for you. So this is what you should be looking to identify with, that makes you more Ghanaian and more African for that matter.
As an office, we're affiliated with quite a number of them. Two that regularly come to mind are International Organization for Migration, IOM, GIZ from Germany, and they affect not just Ghana, but they work very closely with most third world countries to make sure that there's safe passage of people from their native lands to wherever they intend to go, especially in Germany and in Europe as well.
These days, we say anecdotally that we live in a global village. No one is staying where they should. There are people moving into Ghana, there are Ghanaians moving abroad. There are nomads passing through our country. We cannot always restrict everything to just who we are. Now, UNESCO, understanding this, knows that there are two issues here. People have a right to know what is happening in other parts of the world. If we say we are a global village and we say things like it takes a village to raise a child, everyone is connected. But in so doing, it's important that we do not lose who we are. And so there's an important UNESCO convention called the 2005 Diversity of Cultural Expressions Convention. It seeks to say that no one should close off its people to what is out there in the world. But in so doing, we must also maintain and retain the essence of who we are. And so the convention which Ghana acceded to in 2016, and meaning that we are bound to it, It's one that enjoins us, together with the rest of the world who have signed to it, to allow open borders to culture, but also within means to ensure that who we are and what we hold dear is not lost in the process.
The National Commission participates in the frameworks that have been set up by UNESCO. That is the 2005 Convention, the 2003 Convention, and the 1972 Conventions. And all these conventions help Ghana get funding for the preservation and documentation of heritage sites and the promotion of our culture. Cultural aspects of migration has been addressed through programs targeted at the diasporans, the Emancipation Day celebration, Panafest, Beyond the Year of Return, and the Year of Return. And I'll also state that during our National Festival of Arts and Culture, we have an event dubbed International Friendship Day, where embassies in Ghana are invited to showcase their cultures. This initiative has earned the NCC, and for that matter, Ghana, a cultural exchange program with India, which is an annual affair that we attend every time. The government of Ghana supports initiatives that support migration and integration among migrant citizens through policies, programs, activities, events, and partnerships. These key activities are being carried out by agencies such as GTA and the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts. The first policy I'm going to talk about is the cultural policy of Ghana. This policy encourages inclusiveness and promotes the sharing of diverse cultures. Then our National Festival of Arts and Culture, which is the NCC's flagship program, is a platform that seeks to showcase the Ghanaian culture.
My migration experience has shaped my identity as a Ghanaian, number one, culture-wise. Number two, on how things are done over there versus how things are done in Ghana. Like, I cannot go and park on a handicap parking whilst my car has a normal parking thing. You will get a ticket and you'll be called to court.
The beautiful thing for me being in London is such a multicultural city. There's Sierra Leone's, you've got Cameroonians, Australians, whoever, like it's such a melting pot. One thing about living in a place which is such a melting pot, you also find your Ghanaian tribe. And there's a huge Ghanaian community. So I realized how identity wasn't for me, that duality, and also being comfortable. Yes, I'm British. I'm Brit. That's where, you know, that's me. Yes, I'm Ghanaian. I carry both. And for me, I've had the best of both. I've been able to use what I know in the West to make sure I'm changing imagery about how they see Ghana, how they see other African countries. And yes, when I'm also here, there's certain things that I have that I'm like, no, I think I want to do it this way.
My identity is not something that I am vague about. And so even if I migrated to China, it's not going to impact my identity. I do find it funny that even though to the rest of the world I'm considered a black female, in Ghana, particularly in communities outside of Accra, I'm considered a white woman, which to me at first I was insulted, okay, because I am a staunch African, very proud of my roots. I don't bleach, I don't wear straight hair, I don't do all these things to try and adopt a white persona. So at first I was extremely insulted. But as I got to know the genesis of the word and the fact that it doesn't actually mean white, it means foreigner. And that when I hear children saying that, that's their vocabulary. They don't quite understand. They hear their parents say that, and they don't understand that that could be insulting, but so now I just smile. In fact, I lean into it. But from an identity